Okay, ladies and gentlemen, listeners, friends and colleagues and anybody who's just tuned in for the first time, welcome back again. And this morning we've got a very interesting character, and you'll probably see by the background, he's got a big smile on his face, but there'll be a little surprise again later on. Today we've got Yuval Baruch, okay, who's the CEO of Hermes Logistics Technologies, and I'll let him tell us where he's joining us from. So Yuval, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, Chris. Thanks for spicing up a work from home situation that I'm sure everybody else is experiencing nowadays.
Yeah, it's the well, I think it's going to be part of the new normal, which we'll get into later on. But yeah. Yuval, do you want to just tell everybody firstly, who you are, a bit about your background and the company that you're in charge of?
Yeah, well, I've joined Hermes Logistics Technologies about 6 years ago. Before that, I was involved in running international operations in consumer goods, and before that in services, wellness and fitness services. HLT is a software company providing cargo management systems, hub management systems, and data lakes and BI solutions, applications, all around the need for the needs that terminals have around the world. Typical customers would be GHAs, airlines that have that run their own hubs, and airports that run their own cargo operations.
Okay, nice one. Now, obviously, I know Hermes for many years. I'm trying to think back now. When was the first time I was introduced to it? It was probably mid 90s, was it?
I think probably the first you've heard of Hermes was 2002, when a colleague of yours, Steve Montgomery, created the first Hermes team, and that was a combination of developers assigned from our shareholder Magic Software Enterprises and Menzies Aviation, and jointly they have started to create the system that Menzies needed for their operation. Later down the line, the system was perceived to be very, very good, and they decided to spin it off into an independent software company.
Well, blimey, it seems, God, it seems longer than that. 2002. Yeah, maybe. I'm just trying to think.
Well, the system itself started a little bit before, so we are at about, the system celebrates about 20 years right now.
Okay, all right. Well, very good. Now, obviously, you've just rattled off some of your key customers, carriers and ground handling agents, and my goodness me, everybody's having such a tough time at the moment.
Yeah.
It's unprecedented. All the things that everybody can possibly say. While we're talking about that, I think it's only just, especially some of the news today, the poor people in the care services, whether they're frontline or support staff, my goodness me, what they're going through. They deserve an awful lot of appreciation, respect, and recognition. So we're all thinking of them at this particular moment in time. Now, Yuval, with that in mind and the way things are happening, what do you think is going to be the new normal?
The new normal. To be honest, right now, I find it very, very difficult to predict. I think this situation will probably impact how we work, how we interact as a society. I think fear levels from one another are probably going to stay with us for a very, very long time, which will impact society generally. But when we're talking about our industry, and obviously the wider aviation industry, I think what we're seeing probably are we will see two contradicting trends. The first, we will see a decline, not as we're experiencing now. Obviously now the world is at a halt, but we will see a decline in passenger travel. I think people will learn that the same way that we are doing this over Zoom, and the same way that companies are now running their entire operations over video conferences, that's an option, and therefore there will be less business travel. I think people will be afraid, and there will be less leisure travel. But at the same time, I think the cargo will actually see an increase, because the more people actually stay at home and the more we use digital services, to consume, the more packages, the more cargo is going to be flying around. So I think air cargo will see, after this crisis will pass, air cargo will increase, but passenger business will probably decrease some to what we used to know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I was talking to somebody this morning. I was trying to remember how much of an impact it had with regards to the to the bomb in Brussels. And I remember I was there when it went off, and I remember having to wait a couple of days, to get out. And they put up separate marquees for pre-checks before you even got to the terminal to do check-in. I think there'll be something along those lines that will start to come in, and people will have predetermined grading as to whether or not they're suitable for travel, so that there are checks done before you even get into the check-in areas.
Yeah, we might see screening terminals, right?
Yeah.
Airplanes land before you even go to border control. You actually go to a screening terminal where, I don't know, they take your temperature or do something else.
Before you take off, though, I think the responsibilities will be at the front end rather than at the back end.
Yeah.
But so anyhow, there is going to be huge change. Now,
although if I'm the country, I would want to protect myself. I wouldn't want to be trusting someone else, and if they screw up, then it's my country that is going to be exposed. So I would probably want to.
Oh, I think it'll be both ends, but I think what they'll have to do is there'll be sort of bilateral arrangements or agreements with countries that trust each other's process. But it'll be
like the visas that are handled.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be both ends. One will be, you shouldn't let this happen, and then if somebody gets through, there'll be a big fine, just like with the visas, like you say. But it's definitely going to change, Yuval. Now, something else, I think, as the new normal comes in, people are going to have to start dropping all the legacy waste and the legacy, problems with inefficiencies and projects that people were working on. Do you think that's going to happen?
Well, we've seen a trend like that already. In the last 2 years, we ended up basically taking our operation in two parallel strategies. One is to continue and enhance the capabilities of the Hermes system and the upgrade to Hermes 5 and so on, and moving it to the cloud. But not only that, we needed, through the cloud process, also to make it available in small, quick instances. So Hermes, that was only able to serve, large GHAs and large terminals, can now also serve relatively small operations and do it very quickly and very efficiently. At the same time, we are developing an ecosystem of apps and BI lakes, but all those are essentially, there is the initial investment is down to zero. It is pay as you go type apps, and very, very light in terms of the user's infrastructure, using strong cloud infrastructure and so on. So I think the accessibility and the speed and the light form of whatever solutions we're offering will only increase.
Yeah, especially like one of the things you said there, the pay as you go, because obviously the cash flow and margins are going to matter an awful lot more now as companies get back to the new normal. So there's going to be an awful lot of scrutiny on things that don't make commercial sense or are not seen to be adding value.
So one thing I'll share with you, as you say, the new norm. But before we get to the new norm, in a way, we had a challenge of what do we do with customers currently, where we have recurring projects and they run into cash flow situations and so on. So we've ran a number of conversations with our customers, some of whom and we've agreed with them that one, they can spread whatever payments they need to pay us, and that they can spread them over a longer period of time to some extent, and in some cases where we could actually see an almost paralyzing impact, we've provided some discounts for Q2, which we know will be the most difficult one. But the two most important elements, I think, are what we are doing in order to get ready for what will come after.
Yeah.
And that is, we've, together with our customers, identified what elements of development or services they will definitely need as we come out of this crisis.
Yeah.
And what HLT is doing is we told our customers, listen, we know you're in difficulty right now. We will do it ourselves. And when the time comes to deploy, we can then talk about what will be the charge, how you will pay for it, and so on. But we take it upon ourselves to make sure that whatever they will need when they come out of the crisis will already be waiting for them. So their ability to recover is increased by that.
Okay, and you mentioned ability to recover, which another word that's going to be such a prominent feature of everybody's DNA is agility.
Yeah.
And how quickly people can change. Now, how do you actually see the systems being used and changed? Because my experience, and we've spoken about this several times, Yuval, is the systems are fantastic. People aren't. And people tend to stay with what they were comfortable with, and they prefer certain things. And to a certain degree, an awful lot of the benefits of the systems aren't being utilized.
True.
And then you get the commercial side of the IT companies like yourselves and several others that are in the same peer group as you. What they then do is they then still try and get the commercial side of it to understand why and what, etc., without actually having hands-on or feet on ground disciplines as to what needs to be done, must be done, and how it must be done, you know, specifically to a certain degree. Otherwise, you don't get the benefits. Now, no, I'm not comparing it, but like you said, one of the things when we were having the chat about, you know, how are things where you are, you were saying that things are relatively well because of the speed at which you had the lockdowns. Now, lots of other countries and governments are going to be doing a little bit of a review as to what they did and what they should do better. And definitely, I think this is going to have a bounce effect. So once people open up for economical reasons more than health security, there's going to be another bounce. So we have to identify people that have had it. We have to identify people that have been in good environments, etc. But we're also going to have to prepare workers for coming back, ramping up really quickly, and then having to contract again. Okay. Now, how do you think? And you mentioned this, you know, the apps, and having a very light form of certain areas. How do you think that needs to change now to make it more compatible with the speed and the efficiencies that are going to be necessary? Because people are going to start looking at their employee numbers and employee costs. How do you think that's going to balance?
Well, you said something in you know, when you started to describe the needs. You said that systems are great, people are not. I tend to disagree. I think people are great. I think the challenge is with getting the people to actually follow process as you suggested. Now, understanding that, I think what we would aim to do with all of our NG apps, right? It's a little bit more complicated with Hermes as a system, but this will be the strategy with Hermes as well. But we are seeing that already with our NG apps, and this is what we call you know, the Uberification of systems, which means if you go tomorrow to any country and you download Uber, it'll take you exactly 1.5 minutes to understand how the app works, to do what you need to do, and get that you know, get that Uber ride that you're looking for. The app itself guides you through the process in a quick, efficient manner that doesn't require you to be a techie or a specialized cargo person. I think that's where all the systems need to go. Okay, once all the systems are simple, intuitive, quick, easy to use, and get the job done, then we're okay with that. That's the first thing. I think the second thing that is a must is that we have to increase the level of automation. And we have to decrease the level of manpower. Now, we can use manpower in other areas. We can utilize employees in other places. I'm not saying, I'm not suggesting layoffs, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying
exactly.
that if
Yeah,
we are able, with the same workforce, to process twice the amount of cargo, then we can tackle the challenge of margins. We can tackle the challenge of efficiency. We can really, our customers will be able to serve their customers in the way the airlines expect to be served. And that's, I think, is the purpose of our systems.
Okay, yeah. Now I better clarify something. When I said systems are good, people are not, or systems are great, people are not, I'm talking about the fact that if you program a system or direct it or give it a certain instruction, it will do what it's programmed to do. Whereas
Yes.
people won't, can't. It's multitude of reasons. But I agree with you that we
Part
have
of
to
the
increase
charm.
the level of fun.
It's part of the people's charm.
Yeah, yeah. But I agree with you that we have to increase the level of technology and to also redirect labour then into more high impact or more beneficial areas where it's necessary. And that
There's
comes
one
down
more
to,
thing I think, Chris, there's
yeah,
one more thing I think that is very, very important. And this is not to do that much with the air cargo industry, but more to do with the technology providers to the air cargo industry. And that we need to open up. Part of what we do with our NG ecosystem
yeah,
is published APIs. So anybody and everybody can dialogue with the Hermes system safely and to do whatever they want. And they don't have to depend on us. We need to have that across the board with all of the technology providers, so I can do whatever I want in serving my customer if they're using for their business in other areas a competitor, and my
yeah,
competitor can do the same.
yes. Okay, yeah, I totally agree. Like a plug and play. They've got to be
Yeah,
able to, yeah, yeah. It's a little bit like the cables for the phones.
yeah. We need to open up, the regulation and kind of thinking that if I own the whole process, if I do everything by myself, makes my system stronger. I think that's a wrong perception. I think
Yeah.
the more the system is open, the more others can integrate with it and work with it. That's what makes my system stronger.
Yes, yeah, I totally agree with that. Now, again, coming back to the light, are you going to change? And you were saying about the apps, the self-instruction apps, etc. Are you going to start modifying those so that it helps with the training? Because one of the things that's a problem as well, as you know, is taking people out of the workplace, and it's going to be even more difficult now in the future. Taking them out of the workplace and training them, and then giving them practical testing to make sure that they're okay on it, and also training too many people who don't get the exposure to the systems at certain times. So this regular tap into, right, what should I do? How quickly can I do it? Are you able to bring that forward?
We are actually doing that right now. Funny that you mentioned this. I think it's no secret that about 6 or 8 months ago we signed a massive renewal contract with Menzies Aviation.
Yeah.
Part of the reason they have reconfirmed their partnership with us for quite many years was because part of the proposition, and now it's an actual project running through the Menzies operations, is that we come with what we believe should be best practice for Menzies, creating, I would say, a unified level of service for them with their customers.
Yeah.
And we're training their teams in those processes. So we're making sure that our experts introduce what should be the right processes, and then
Yeah.
we're training them to make sure that the local teams on the ground will actually be following these processes. So best practice across the Menzies network was something that was a key criteria in the evaluation process that they ran.
Very good. Now, okay, and congratulations there with Hermes. I'm sure Robert's very satisfied.
Robert is kicking our rear
Good lad.
ends whenever it's necessary. You know him well enough that you
Yeah.
know that he doesn't give us an easy time.
Good lad, good lad. Now, Yuval, listen, something else that I've spoken several times and to yourself and lots of people on with the IT platforms is how it links with the intelligence and the data that comes in. So when you process map, okay, there are certain elements of that process that have got a higher risk of failure. And whether that's because of pressure, because of unrealistic SLA agreements, because of people, whatever it is, because of training, but there's a higher risk element to some parts of that particular process. Now, I've always felt that with the data where there are failures in the system, that there should be a link between the system and any risk and mitigation action planning that's done by a company to help it. And the same thing with crisis. So if there are certain scenarios which everybody should be looking at now more than ever, once they've got those scenarios mapped out and they've got some sort of simulation action plan, that's where the systems could also help. Do you agree?
I agree. I agree very much. I think something that needed to be done and is not easily done, but I think now the technology is actually working for us to be able to do that, is, I would say, demystifying data. And what do I mean by demystifying data? In the past, when you wanted to get any type of business intelligence, any type of a report as a manager, you needed to go to your business analysts in your company, and they needed to start working with probably an external tool that would probe your database, which needed to be deciphered and tables and so on. We wanted to get rid of that I would say of that process, of that approach, and what we've been doing recently, and actually we have already one of those systems live, one in prototype, and another 2 cases also going live probably in the next 3 weeks. And I'll share with you how that works with the Corona situation as well, because that's an interesting point. But what we've done is we've taken what used to be business, I would say skilled or needed skilled business analyst in a specific software to be able to understand what is happening in your operation. We took that and converted that into the creation of event data lakes. What do we mean by event data lakes? It's not anymore a movement in your database. It's now an airway bill, okay, was issued at that date, and and a shipment was moved at that time from this place to that place. It's an event. It's something that we as people can understand. We don't understand databases. We understand events. So with something that we've developed for the Hermes system, with H5 now, once you go and you do an upgrade, we install a small relay that is capable of basically taking any type of event within the Hermes system and just, without impacting the performance of the system, because it's only one way, right? It's only going out.
Yeah.
We create a data lake with a lot of events, and those events are actually meaningful, to the cargo people that are looking at them. Now, the data lake events are created in the cloud, and any BI system, Power BI could be one that costs you, I don't know what, $90 a month or something like that. You could spin any type of reports at any given time, very simply, but you do that from tables of events that you understand. So that gives you the ability to really take all the activities and the huge amount of data that can be created from processing cargo in a terminal, and turn that data into something meaningful, into events that we all understand, and generate very, very simply all the reports that you want independently. You don't need us for that.
No, you don't. But, and again, over, nearly 20 years, working with system providers and then working with your own in-house IT, it's like working with two different organizations and two different languages. And more often than not, there's a difference of opinion, there's a difference of capability. That then has its own problems with hiding inefficiencies or a lack of awareness or understanding. And then again, having own opinions and saying something's right or wrong, or it can't be done, it can be done. So the people on the front line get so frustrated with listening to IT techies have a little boxing match between each other, and all they want to do is get on with it and have things simple. So have you not thought of setting up your own crisis control center on behalf of all of your customers, so that anybody that's got these particular issues, it's far better to go straight back to you than it is to go through the various IT specialists within the company?
Don't get me wrong, we can do that, and we can do that today. But I think for any manager, the accessibility of data and not being dependent on us to create a report from events that they understand is a much quicker, much more accessible, and in most cases also cheaper way to get whatever information they need. So what we would like to do is create the infrastructure, right, for the cargo people to be able to actually be able to retrieve and analyze the data that they want at the time that they want it, without, let's say, dependencies, not only on their own internal IT people, but also on us. So it gives them the power really to.
But it also gives them the chance. It also gives them the chance to look out of the window and see some crazy detail that isn't the same as what everybody else is doing. And yeah. I just think there's a chance now that things have to be less complex now moving forward in the new normal. And everybody, if they're in a particular industry like ours, they should be doing the same. Everybody should be doing the same thing, and they should be doing it according to best recognized standards. If somebody is able to do it quicker or faster, that's their own USP. If people are able to offer a different type of a product within certain frameworks, that's their own USP. But there is so much complexity and sometimes senior managers who are not quite sure what they want to measure, and they create such a portfolio of reports that nobody actually looks at or does anything with.
But that's what we tried to resolve, because think about it. In the old days, you would ask for a report, somebody would come back to you after 2 weeks at best, sometimes after a month, give you the report. That report is either incorrect or not giving you the information that you want, or is irrelevant anymore. So why work like that when, with very, very simple intuitive tools, right, you could have your own lake of events that you understand, and if you want to learn about how the events, evolve or what had happened, it's very easy and very intuitive for yourself to do it. I think that's probably the quickest way. Now, obviously, there will be managers that will have one business analyst that will do that, but at the same time, the terminology and we are talking now not about databases and systems. We're talking about clear events that everybody with a little bit of training can work with. I'll give you an example. We have a large customer that is concluding the prototyping right now and will be going live very soon with our data lakes. They liked the simplicity and the power of our data lakes so much that they are now considering with other systems that are not our systems. They're thinking of linking them in the same way into the Hermes data lakes, just so they can have in the events coming out of other systems being funneled into the Hermes data lakes so they can analyze them in the same way. That's how much they like the simplicity of analyzing their data, which I think is key.
Correct. Now, I also think this simplicity link is going to be so important moving forward. Now, if I was involved now in getting back to, or getting back on track and then having to look at a new normal, I would be looking at setting prerequisites across my entire supply chain. So if I was one of the GHAs and had anything from 60 to 200 locations, I'd be wanting everything to be done the same so that I could measure which ones were actually hitting margins, which ones were financially,
You're absolutely right.
So I would be wanting as much simplicity as possible. Now, if out of those 100, 200, whatever it was, locations, I had several different systems with 7 different opinions, I'd also now be focusing in the future as part of my risk assessment. I didn't want that. I don't want that anymore. So I'd be wanting to see some collaboration between yourself and some other key providers to come up with a nice, simple framework. Because the one thing in our industry, we're very good at complicating things. We're very good at making a process out of a process out of a process, and then not training people effectively. So I think this simplicity has got to come. And you're talking about demystifying data. There's an awful lot of confusion at every level still when things go wrong. And as you know, when things go wrong, people start to blame and they point fingers, and there's all sorts of reasons. So I think collaboration has got to be something, and simplicity and sustainability, that people are going to focus on a lot more in the future. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you about, now, when people do come back, whether it's for a long period of time or a short period of time until the bounce back, people's anxieties and people's awareness of what's happened is going to have to be spoken about. People are going to be talking about it when they get back into more social circles, etc. And if you look at some of the big ticket items that have happened in our career lifetimes, an awful lot of that rebound time is dealt with people coming to terms. Are they okay? Do they feel a little bit more secure? Are they worried about what's happening? How do they compare against other people, etc.? So an awful lot of productivity and efficiency is going to be lost at the very beginning if there's not a way of teaching people and communicating to people ahead of time. And again, now all of the things that were either done incorrectly or not from an understanding perspective, you guys are also going to have a little bit of, shall we say, reflection time on your hands as well. Is there a way of creating now a better communication tool that everybody can have on their phones, and so it starts to explain to people when they come back what are the key milestones, what's really important to speed up the process of the business so that more things can go right rather than wrong? Because the last thing we want when things come back on board again is to have difficulties or errors or problems. So the old issues that you guys know so well, are you reflecting on how to help people with that and be creative? Whilst you're thinking on that, change that backdrop for me, will you please? Because I've got this poor old plant that needs watering, and you've got such a beautiful backdrop. I'm sure you can do something about that.
Would you like me to go into my library now?
Yes, please. That's what I'd like.
There you go.
Very good. That makes at least
I like my library.
Now I'm intimidated because I don't have a book in sight, but that's better. That's okay.
Well, but the piano is hidden to your left, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. Hidden skills, Yuval, hidden skills.
Look, Chris, when I'm thinking about, one, the situation we're in, the strategies to get out of the crisis we're at, I think where the difference, look, when you're looking at a crisis of this magnitude, right, there are what we call real risks, and there is what we call perceived risks, okay? So a real risk is a risk of getting the coronavirus. That's a real risk. You have to protect yourself against it and so on. A perceived risk is something that is not real. You don't know what will happen tomorrow, what will be the environment, what it would look like, whether the industry will bounce right back or not. We don't know. That's a perceived risk. Now, with the real risk, there are actual, let's say, clear actions that you need to take. And those are probably given to you by I don't know, in the UK, maybe the NHS or, the
Yeah.
Ministry of Health or whatever. When you're looking at perceived risk, this is where there will be a difference between how people operate today, which will signify how they will come out of the crisis. So I'll give you an example. I think one of the most important things have changed. We are, as human beings, we like to communicate with one another. We meet, we hug, we do different things that are now not there anymore. We need to make sure that although we are not meeting face to face in the same room, in the same hall, we are still in communication. So one thing that we've done, and we recommend that to our customers as well, increase the level of communication internally.
Yes.
Talk to your teams more.
Yeah.
Talk to them every day if you want. Talk to them twice a day. Run more team meetings. Run more company meetings, because the more they see you, the more they talk to you, even if it's virtual, the more comfortable they will feel. And that will create, I would say, more resilient teams that will come out of this crisis better. That's one thing.
Yeah.
Another thing is, think today what you can do, because work environment had changed, right?
Yeah.
You can, for example, make available training tools online.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Train.
100%.
So when they come back, this time that maybe their productivity is now lower, when they come back, at least their skill level, theoretical, is increased, and therefore it adds to their ability to, rebound quicker. So I think
100%.
the operations that will come out of this stronger are not necessarily the ones that are, laying off all of their staff and so on. Are the operations that are taking measures to make sure that they are financially stable, but at the same time making sure that their employees are, let's say, developing skills that they can in this time that will serve them when they come out.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. In fact, this morning I was on a crisis control webinar, and it was with people all over the world. It was fantastic, and lots of different questions, lots of different, probing differences and why, and it was really, really educational, really good. So I'm definitely going to encourage them more often as well. But I agree with you, and the real risk and the perceived risk is a very, very balanced approach to things. Now, what I'd like to ask you again now, cybersecurity. How do you think that is now at the moment? Do you think it's at the level that it, from people who are aware and who are mindful of what could go wrong? Do you think there's a little bit of pressure now where, people are taking their eye off of things a little?
Actually, I think if you look at the people that do look to hack your systems, they never stop looking to hack your systems. And in times like that, they might believe that vulnerability is even higher, and therefore there's an opportunity for them to hack your systems even more.
Exactly.
I think cybersecurity is unfortunately an evil will live with for a very, very long time, and I think the needs arising from protecting we will need to protect ourselves more and more, and the systems to protect us will just become stronger and stronger, because we find a solution, hackers find a different way. We find a solution, they find a different way. It's a never-ending story. It will never end.
Exactly. Okay, my friend. Well, listen, we're coming to the end now, so let me just ask you, what 3 things would you like to see in the new normal if you had the power to provide them?
What 3 things? Well, one, I would like to see, I think, a society that had learned, there was a feeling that everything will be, that the economies will run forever and airplanes will fly forever and everything will go strong and consumerism and so on. I think a society that reflects a little bit upon itself and does 2 things. One, operates in a proportionate manner, but also is compassionate. I think we are seeing scenes that I, for one, never thought. I will say in my lifetime, I thought
Yeah.
that these type of pandemics are a thing of the past. We're so advanced with medicines and everything, and we're so strong. And I think we're not. So I think a more concrete view of life, that's one. The other one is, I think, again, as a society, is better preparation. I think
Yep.
one thing that this pandemic had unveiled is how unprepared we are.
And do you think that preparation was influenced by cost?
Definitely,
Which is,
definitely. I look at the health system here,
yeah.
and so much investment went into things that now don't mean anything. So, for example, the U.S., right? They have the strongest army in the world. Trillions of dollars are invested in the army.
Yeah.
Can that
Yeah.
army protect the U.S. from the coronavirus?
Yeah.
No.
No.
So was that trillions of dollars of investment intelligent, or whether they should have invested more in their health system, which we know is in a horrible situation? So that's what I mean by better preparation, as the leaders and the governments will step up. And the one thing I would like to see is something that I'm seeing now internally with my own family, is that families gel together.
Yeah.
Because we're bound to our homes,
Yeah.
then we are in a way forced to be together. Now that could be a bad thing. I find it a fantastic thing. So I would like to see that not going away in the new reality.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe once it all gets back to a new normal, once a year there'll be a two-week lockdown.
I'm in favor. I'm
Yeah.
in favor. The skies will only benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And people will start looking more now, I think, at the world we live in and what a special place it is. And we need to get the balance right.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. Yuval, absolute pleasure, my friend. Good luck with everything. And known you for a long time, and look forward to keeping in touch. Great success. And thank you so much for spending your time with us.
Thanks, Chris. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers now.